I hope you are enjoying your stay at home. Today we are going to discuss Everglades Forever, Lesson 8 selection. By now you should all have read the text. In case you haven't, I strongly recommend you to go and read the text before you watch this video. The text is about a class trip for grade 5 students to the Everglades in Florida, arranged by Miss Stone, their class teacher. First of all, let's highlight the main points that we are going to speak about throughout the text. We're going to talk about the genre, which is narrative nonfiction. I will discuss this in detail later. Then we are going to speak about the author's purpose or the reason behind writing the text. Then we are going to know how does the author explain the different scientific ideas throughout the text. And then we are going to highlight the domain-specific vocabulary, the specific vocab words that are related to the domain or the topic of the text. First, let's start with the genre. Okay. By looking at the pictures in your student's book, in the text, these pictures, they make me believe that the text, it tells information about the Everglades. So the text must be non-fiction. It must be true. It must be a real text. But in the same time, it looks like it tells a story. So it is narrative. So what is the genre of the text? It is narrative non-fiction. What is the meaning of narrative non-fiction? A narrative non-fiction text, it gives information in the form of a story. It gives information because it's non-fiction. The information are being told in the form of a story because it is narrative. So again, what does a narrative non-fiction text tell? The narrative non-fiction text, it tells or it gives information in the form of a story. What does a narrative non-fiction text include? As we saw earlier in the student's book, it includes information, it includes photographs and captions that tell more about the photographs. What are the Everglades? The Everglades is a wetland in Florida with natural water resources. It is also home to many different kinds of animals and plants. How can we restore the Everglades? How can we protect the animals and the plants living in the Everglades? What are ways the country tried to protect the Everglades? Through a restoration plan. So the country made a plan in order to get the Everglades back to the way it was before. What is the restoration of the plan? What is it about? The restoration plan is to regulate the flow of the water, to control the flow of the water. This is important for the plants and for the survival of the animals in the Everglades. Who is guiding the students through their class trip? Ranger Jim. So Ranger Jim is the one responsible for describing the different kinds of plants, the different kinds of habitats throughout the trip, the students' trip in the Everglades. Why do you think the author chose a ranger to tell the students about the Everglades? Why specifically a ranger? Why not anyone else? The park ranger is more professional, he is experienced, he knows all about the Everglades. He will make the readers and he will make the students as well agree with the author's point of view. So the park ranger or the Everglades ranger, he is the best one to tell the students and to tell the readers about the Everglades. What are the different habitats in the Everglades? What are the different environments in the Everglades? First of all, before knowing the habitats and the different habitats in the Everglades, let's discuss what are the reasons that created different habitats in the Everglades. Why are there more than one habitat? When the wet season, the water level is high, and during the dry season, the water level is low. So these changes in the seasons and the water level, they affect the soil. So in some time of the year, the soil is wet. Other times of the year, the soil is dry. So these changes result in different habitats, different environments. Each habitat or each environment has its own plants and own animals that are adapted, okay, that can live in such environment. The first kind of habitat is the mangrove swamp. It's called the mangrove swamp because of the mangrove trees that grow in this kind of habitat. The water in this habitat is brackish. What is the meaning of brackish water? It is the rainwater mixed with salty ocean water. This habitat contains trees that have adapted roots and leaves that help the trees to survive in brackish water. How would the trees survive in this water, the rainwater mixed with the salty ocean water? They have adapted roots. They have special roots and special leaves that help these trees to survive in this kind of water. It contains also many kinds of marine animals, sea animals, and endangered American crocodiles and manatees. The second kind of habitat is the pine lands. This habitat is dry, so tall pine trees can grow. It contains kinds of animals as red hawk and golden orb spiders. The third kind of habitat is the finger glade. This habitat is a small part of the sawgrass that doesn't stay wet all the year. It doesn't stay wet all the year. It's on higher ground. In page 247 in your student's book, you will find that the author included Miss Stone's exact words about the finger glade habitat. She included her exact words when she was describing the finger glade habitat to the students. So what do you think the effect of the dialogue in this part of the text? The dialogue attracts the reader to the place. Okay, when if you checked page 227, you will find that the way Miss Stone talks about the finger glade habitat attracts you as readers to the place. Also, the way she talks about the place makes the reader feel how important the place is. She makes us feel how the place is so important. As we said before, the text, it includes different scientific details. So how does the author explain the scientific details or highlight the scientific details included in the text? In order for the author to explain the scientific ideas, she makes compare and contrast. She compares and contrasts different scientific details. Okay, an example of comparing and contrasting different scientific details in the text, when the author compared and contrasted the three different kinds of habitats in the Everglades. She compared how the mangrove swamp and the pine lands and the finger glades, how the three kinds of habitats are considered to be three different types of environments. Each of them has its own plants and animals that are adapted to live in such environment. What factors make the Everglades endangered? Why the Everglades? Why is it endangered? The farming and the development. The farming and the development make people use more lands, which brings them near the Everglades. Also, they use a lot of water that comes from the Everglades. And the farming and the development, both factors cause pollution. The author also believes that all life is connected. The life of the animals and the life of the humans affect each other in some ways, and they are all connected. What details in the text show that? The author explains that the water people use in Florida It comes from the Everglades. And the excessive use of water can harm the plants and the animals in the Everglades. So, the two lives are connected. The author as well believes that the students are part of the Everglades. How are the students part of the Everglades? The students live in Florida. The way they behave affect the Everglades and the plants and the animals that live there. That's how the students are part of the Everglades. According to the author, how are people responsible for the Everglades? How are we or how are people living in Florida responsible for the Everglades? They should conserve water. They should protect the unique habitats of the Everglades. That's the responsibility towards the Everglades. What is the author's purpose? What is the reason? What is the author's reason for writing the text? What is the reason behind writing the text? First of all, the author provides details, so much details in the text, reasons, facts, to make the reader agree with a certain way of thinking. The author is trying to make the reader agree with a certain point of view. The author is trying to persuade the reader with how important it is to restore the Everglades and to protect the different habitats. So, the author's purpose or the author's reason for writing the text is to persuade the reader, to convince the reader, to make the reader agree with how important it is to restore the Everglades and to protect the Everglades and to also protect the different habitats in the Everglades. Open up your selection projectable and fill in the chart with me. So, what is the author's purpose? How it is important to restore the Everglades? What are the details that the author provided in the text to make the reader agree with his point of view, to make the reader agree that it is important to restore the Everglades? Detail number one, a huge number of species live in the Everglades. The author mentioned that huge number of species live in the Everglades. Unique habitats are found in the Everglades. Each habitat has its own animals and plants. As I said before, the author included this information in the text that there are unique habitats in the Everglades. Each habitat has its own animals and its own plants that are adapted to live in such environment. Detail number three, if the habitats changed or got harmed, the animals will be affected. The author also mentioned that information that if any habitat, any of the habitat changed or got harmed, the animals will be affected by return and they will not be able to live in this habitat. Helping in protecting the Everglades will keep the unique plants and animals from disappearing. So by helping in protecting the Everglades, we will protect the unique plants and we will protect the animals and the endangered animals, and they will not disappear. And now let's move to the domain-specific vocabulary. Before highlighting the domain-specific words, let's review what is the domain-specific vocabulary. As I said before, the text is about restoring the Everglades. So the text is related to the domain of science. The text is related to the area of science. That's why the author included some words that are related to this topic or this domain. The author included specific vocab words that are related to the topic and restoring the Everglades. Example of domain-specific words would be wetlands, endangered, habitat, adapted, brackish. These are some of the words. These words are considered to be domain-specific words, which means vocab words that are related to the science area, vocab words that are related to restoring the Everglades. Thank you very much. See you in the next lesson.